Okay, so I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about paper number one. It should be fairly straightforward if you read the assignment, but essentially over the last few weeks, you should have been reading and discussing different issues that have sort of dominated women's literature in the United States since the 1900s, essentially. And so that could be basic things regarding equality, it could be gender assumptions, the roles that women are supposed to perform in society. So if we think about what they call domesticity, right, the idea that they're supposed to be at home, taking care of the family, raising the kids, making sure everything looks nice for dad when he gets home, all of that stuff. There's issues beyond that as well in terms of what it means to be a female. There's even been some discussions out there about if becoming a mother changes your I don't know how else to put it, but street cred as a woman, right? And some people have said, no, you're a fully independent woman if you never have children. And people who are mothers have said, and others have said, no, you can't understand what it means to be a female until you've had children. On the other side, I know it's a more radical notion, but the belief is that women who don't have children aren't beholden to masculine whims, and so of course to have a child you have to have a guy involved in the process somehow, even if they're completely anonymous, and so on, but they need to engage in that in some way through banks, and I'll let you fill in your imagination from there, but that's another debate that's going on out there. And so, as we've seen in the literature, there's some stuff out there about mothers and how that factors in. So, what you want to do is you want to pick one of those topics. Okay, this is a short paper, so you only need to pick one short story or one poem that you're going to write about, and you only really need to focus in on one topic. So, a thesis statement would be an argument. So, you would say something like, in the lottery, the theme of motherhood is explored throughout. That's horrible, but so I would rewrite it and say, in Shirley Jackson's The Lottery, the author explores the themes of motherhood throughout the story. Okay, and then from there, you want to pull out only the stuff from the story that has to do with motherhood. Okay, that's it. You don't need anything else. You don't need in any of your papers for this class, you don't need to talk about stuff that doesn't matter. Okay, so a summary of the story, forget it. Okay, where that author went to college, who cares? Okay, when they were born and then when they died will only be relevant if you're talking about a specific historical period. Okay, what their mom and dad's name was doesn't matter. Okay, if your argument is that you're talking about motherhood and Shirley Jackson's Lottery, everything has to do with the lottery and motherhood. Okay, in that everything else is set aside. All right, so what you want to do, if you do have a summary of the story, it shouldn't be more than a sentence or two. Okay, when you write a literary argument, you're assuming that the person is reading it because they have a vested interest in what you're about to say, which means they have read the material that you're talking about. Okay, so if I've never read The Lottery, there's a good chance I don't care about it, and so I'm not going to read your essay. But if I have read The Lottery, I'm certainly going to be looking for research about The Lottery. So keep that in mind. You want to present an argument. You want to take a story or a poem that we've read thus far. Think about a theme that we've discussed in your discussion boards and some that I've presented here about what it means to be female in America during a particular time period or during a particular section of history, and how is that manifested in the literature. Okay, and most of your research will come from the short story or poem itself. The rest of your research needs to be academically viable. So that means what you want to do is go to JSTOR on the library website, or EBSCOhost on the library website, or Google Scholar. Okay, you don't want to just Google things. You don't want to cite SparkNotes, which will get you, severely punished. You don't want to cite Snopes or Essay 123 Help Me or anything like that. You want to rely on academically credible sources. So keep that in mind as you do your research. Really what you want to do is just search on JSTOR, for instance, and just say, okay, Shirley Jackson's The Lottery, and see the stuff that comes up, and that should guide you in a pretty solid direction. So that's basically this in a nutshell. It's a shorter paper, but really what you're doing as you're reading these short stories and poems, what you want to do is start pulling out the material as you read, which will prevent you from having to go back like the night of writing the paper. It's like, where'd that go? Where'd that go? What page was it on? I remember it was on the left side. and so on. So you want to pull that material out, use the post-it flags, use a highlighter, all of these sorts of things, so you have your evidence ready. And then find that research that helps you make your point. So again, no summary, no details that don't match what your argument is. Make sure you have an argument, use academically viable sources, and then also make sure you're using MLA style. If you're unfamiliar with MLA style, I believe under course documents, there's a presentation on it. They recently updated MLA style, so my presentation might be a little out of date, but not that much. And so make sure that you have that. When you go to turnitin.com, do not copy and paste your paper. Upload it from Google Docs or Word, okay? But if you copy and paste your paper, it strips out all of your formatting, and there's no way I would know that you had formatted it correctly. Okay, so keep that in mind. Your paper is coming up sooner rather than later, so go ahead and keep thinking about the arguments and stuff, and really that's the process you'll engage in throughout the entire semester. You know, here's an argument, here's the evidence from this particular work, and here's the evidence of other people who have said this about that particular work, and that's how you put it together. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. You can email me, or, well, email me will probably be the best way of doing it. So otherwise, keep working, and keep working on your paper.